I'm on the record saying that I do not believe the state of Massachusetts as a whole is going to see a housing crash with severe price corrections. I'm also on the record saying that I do believe some towns in a market have more potential for a minor price correction than others. I've been repeatedly asked which towns in Massachusetts are the most likely to see some sort of pricing correction, and well, because I didn't have any data, I was always reluctant to provide any answers. Well, that changes today. This is a data-driven analysis, no backhanded feelings helping drive up or down a specific market. And there were towns that I personally deep down feel like should be on this list, but the data says otherwise. So what specific data metrics did I look at? The first metric that I wanted to look at were the markets with the largest appreciation gains since 2019. Now, I disqualified any towns that had less than 50 sales, as I felt that wasn't enough sales data with one or two outliers being so easily able to skew the data in one way or the other. And it's my belief that the towns that had the largest gains would most likely be the ones to give it back. For example, the number one town on the list had seen a nearly 59% increase in the average sales price since 2019. That is nearly 15% per year. But the 20th town on the list had a little over 65% increase in sales prices. So what gives? Now, I channeled my investment banking days when I traded mortgages to come up with these calculations and the list. When evaluating risk on a pool of mortgages, we'd always look at certain obvious characteristics like average down payment percentage, average FICO scores, and asset concentration. But another area of very specific importance was second homes and investment property concentration. We didn't want to buy into a pool of mortgages with a high investor or second home concentration because these were considered more risky assets. And it makes sense when you take a moment to consider why. Let's imagine a person having their primary house as well as a second home, and then they fall on hard times. Which one are they going to try to be, which one are they going to try to keep? Which one are they going to be more inclined to fight for? Not only keep, but make sure they stay current on their mortgage. Most likely, it's their primary residence. And let's just say I owned an investment property that was generating income, but was unemployed and couldn't pay my personal mortgage. What am I most likely to do? I would most likely take that income from my investment property to pay my primary resident mortgage to ensure that, well, that roof is kept over my kids' heads. This is why investment properties and second homes are considered to be more risky loans. And because they're considered to be riskier, that is also why their interest rates are higher. So, knowing this, I knew that there needed to be some data layered on top of the high increase in average sales prices. I found data that gave a foreclosure risk by county based off of 2021 purchased mortgages that were quote unquote risky. These mortgages include homes that were FHA mortgages, investor and second homes. Now, I layered this data and the home price data together and came up with this top 10 list of housing markets in Massachusetts that have the highest potential of a housing price correction in a market slowdown. By the way, my name is Jeff Chubb with the Chubb Homes Team. Thinking about buying or selling a home? Then find my contact information in the description below. Athol, Massachusetts is the 10th most likely town to see a price correction. The average sale price in 2019 was $180,674 and grew over 66% to have an average sales price of $300,541 year to date in 2022. On average, homeowners in Athol have seen nearly a $120,000 increase in their house pricing with a yearly average of 16.6%. Now, on August 31st, Athol had 17 houses currently on the market, which is the exact same number of houses on the market that they had on August 31st of 2021. The average listing price in 2021 was $294,000, or excuse me, it was $394,264, and that's compared to the 2022 price of $348,917. Harwich, Massachusetts comes in at number 9 for the most likely town to see a pricing correction. The average sales price in 2019 was $627,886 and grew 56% to an average sales price of $977,606. This is a $349,721 price gain in a matter of 3 years and 8 months. And as of the end of August, there were 14 single-family homes for sale in Harwich for an average listing price of $2,081,400. $492. And this is compared to August of 2021, when there were also 14 houses on the market for an average asking price of $942,985. Now, today's average might be a little bit of an outlier, as there are currently 2 houses on the market in Harwich over $3 million. And there were no houses like this on the market back at the end of August of 2021. Now, Mashpee, Massachusetts ranks as the 8th most likely town to see a pricing correction in Massachusetts. Mashpee saw a $340,252 average home price appreciation from 2019 through 2022. The average sales price in 2019 was $606,915 versus today's average sales price of $947,167. This represents a 56% increase in the average sales price, or a little over 14% per year. There were 45 single-family homes on the market at the end of August of 2022 versus the 33 on the market at the end of August of 2021. Now, the average asking price in 2021 was $1,805,009 versus the average asking price at the end of August in 2022 being at $1,717,098. Falmouth, Massachusetts is the 7th most likely town to see its pricing go down in a real estate market slowdown. In Falmouth, we have seen prices increase $345,677 since 2019, from $613,378 to $959,055 for the first 8 months of 2022. Now, this average price represents a little over a 14% per year increase in that average sales price. As of the end of August 2022, there were 63 single-family homes on the market for an average listing price of $1,951,292, compared to the 61 houses on the market at the end of August of 2021 with an average asking price of $1,928,204. Bourne, Massachusetts is the 6th most likely town to see a pricing correction in Massachusetts. Their average sales price of $456,449 in 2019 grew to $722,941 in 2022. This is a 14.6% increase for nearly $267,000 in a little over 3 years and 8 months. There were 35 homes on the market for an average asking price of $867,000 at the end of 2021 versus the 39 that were on the market at the end of August of 2022 for an average asking price of $805,411. Harvard, Massachusetts ranks as the 5th most likely town to see a price decrease. Now, the average sales price of $627,317 in 2019 grew to an astounding $1,076,645 in the first eight months of 2022 for a 17.9% average yearly appreciation rate. Now, this equates to an average gain of $449,328 per homeowner. There were 11 homes on the market at the end of August 2022 for an average listing price of $1,335,536. This is compared to the 6 homes on the market at the end of August of 2021 for an average listing price of $722,950. Now, there are currently 3 homes for sale that are between $2 to $3 million, which is really making it for such a high increase in that average price currently on the market. And by the way, are you enjoying this video on the top 10 markets in Massachusetts that are most likely to see a housing price correction? Then please join your neighbors in hitting that like button and subscribe button. It lets me know that you like the content and to keep on creating Massachusetts market videos that, well, you find informative and might just enjoy. Sandwich, Massachusetts finds its way on the list as the 4th most likely town to see home prices decrease in the upcoming downturn. Now, in 2019, the average sales price was $461,536, and it increased $294,000 for an average sale price of $755,546 in the first 8 months of 2022. Now, this represents nearly a 16% increase in home prices per year throughout that time period. There were 56 single-family houses on the market in Sandwich at the end of August of 2022, with an average asking price of $1,029,608. Now, this is compared to the 43 houses on the market at the end of August of 2021 for an average asking price of $777,869. The huge increase in sales price averages is due to the 3 houses that are for sale in between the $2 and $3 million price range, as well as 1 house that's for sale between $3 to $4 million. Now, Orleans, Massachusetts is the 3rd most likely town to see home prices decrease in Massachusetts. The average sales price in 2019 was $841,380, with prices increasing $552,165 to $1,393,545 in the first 8 months of 2022. This is an average of 16.4% per year in home price appreciation for Orleans. We had 18 houses on the market for an average listing price of $2,666,522 in August of 2022, and this is compared to the 18 houses that we had on the market at the end of August of 2021 for an average listing price of $2,958,000. The 2nd most likely town to see a price correction in Massachusetts is Eastham, Massachusetts. Now, the average sales price in Eastham was $583,166 in 2019. Homeowners in Eastham saw an increase of $388,441 for an average sales price of $971,607 in the first 8 months of 2022. This represents a 16.7% yearly average appreciation rate. Now, at the end of August in 2022, there were 9 houses on the market for an average asking price of $971,111. This is compared to the 10 houses that were on the market at the end of August of 2021 for an average asking price of $939,290. And the #1 Massachusetts housing market that is most likely to see a pricing correction is Chatham, Massachusetts. In 2019, the average sales price was $1,041,803. Chatham's average sales price would increase by an astounding $971,217 to $2,013,020 in the first 8 months of 2022. This means that the average home price in Chatham increased by an average of 23.3% per year since 2019. There were 28 houses on the market for an average asking price of $2,962,178 at the end of August of 2022. This is compared to the 23 houses on the market at the end of August in 2021 that had an average asking price of $3,301,159. And there you have it. That is my top 10 list for housing markets in Massachusetts that, if we were to see housing prices decline, would be more likely, in my opinion, to see them. It's important to note that there are no guarantees, right? Just because this is what the data is saying right now does not mean that this is guaranteed in any way in the next 12 to 24 months. It's just data. That's just pointing us down a road of higher likely possibilities. I think it's important to note that if we didn't layer the foreclosure risk data on the list with the appreciation gain data, then there are some other honorable mention towns that would make their way to the top 10 list. These towns, they include Cohasset, Newbury, Merrimack, as well as Orange, Massachusetts. I will say that I think there was an interesting trend to the data and the list. A lot of these towns are in areas that in the past would really be considered vacation towns. Heck, they really still are. But these towns definitely saw an uptick of year-round folks that enjoyed the change to virtual working. But what does the future hold with companies bringing back people to the workplace? I've noticed that people's opinion on whether businesses and how many businesses are going to bring people back really vary widely. This all could be very interesting to watch play out. Because if Cape towns are affected negatively from people going back into the office, then that would mean that towns closer to Boston could be more positively affected. Darn COVID, it just keeps making our lives difficult. Do you have any questions or comments about this market data and the market conditions? Then throw them in the section and comment section below. We always love to hear from you. If you want to talk about your own personal real estate needs as well as your goals, then find my information in the description below as well. I always love talking about real estate. And if you found this video informative, then you may really like my weekly market update videos. In these videos, we go over the weekly listing, under agreements, and sold stats for single family and condos in Massachusetts, while also talking about some of the big news that's real estate news that's impacting our real estate market. And can you please do me a huge favor? Can you please hit that like and subscribe button? And if you could share this information with your friends and family members who are either thinking about making a move or just curious about the market, then I would be truly appreciative. Again, this is Jeff Chubb with the Chubb Homes Team. Until next time.